Everyone, it's time for us to go ahead and take a look at the iPhone 14 and compare it against the iPhone 13 Pro and see which specific phone is the better one for you. Now, I will leave both these phones linked in the description. You can get them from there. You can help support the channel at the same time. Now, if I didn't tell you which one was which, could you even tell which iPhone is which one? The iPhone 14 is on the left, the 13 Pro is on the right, and I'll definitely tell you the 13 Pro is the better phone in pretty much every single area than the iPhone 14. Now, starting off with the front, the iPhone 13 Pro has that beautiful 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED panel, and it is a ProMotion panel. So it refreshes the rate of 120 Hz, which makes this phone that much better in my opinion. The 14s, the 13s, the 12s, the 11s, they don't have that feature, but the Pro models of the 13s and the 14s have those features. So that is one massive area where I look at this phone and just think, man, this phone is that much leagues above the iPhone 14 in that case. With the iPhone 14, you still have a 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED panel, and it's a decent panel. It's not like an ugly panel by any means, but like I mentioned before, if you're getting something like this device, you probably want it to last a little bit longer than maybe, some other devices, and because of that, with that ProMotion display, you're not really going to be getting it at like the highest level possible. So what I mean by that is if you're still getting a 60 Hz panel in 2022, it's not really like the best panel you can get, and that's kind of one of the issues I've had personally. So with this device, still gets a thumbs up from me, but the lack of 120 Hz definitely is a bigger deal than if you not have it in the first place. The notches are also the same size if you guys can tell, so really not that big of a difference. In terms of thickness and thickness, they're almost kind of the same thing. There doesn't really seem to be that big of a difference, but you can definitely tell from what I can see, this, kind of the chassis around the 13 Pro looks beautiful. I love that little band that goes around it, but you're also missing that SIM card tray on the iPhone 14, which is very, very interesting. So you can see ours is right here. 14s were usually down here, but we are missing that on this device, for better or for worse. Honestly, it's kind of for the worst, but it is what it is. On the back, you can see the camera setup, dual camera on the iPhone 14. 13 Pro has that triple camera, and I'll definitely tell you, in my opinion, these are very solid lenses on both of them. But the 13 Pro does have that additional telephoto lens, and it has that LiDAR sensor as well. So that may be one thing you probably want to keep in the back of your head. Both have MagSafe capability on the back. You have the standard glass back on the iPhone 14. The 13 Pro has this frosted glass back, which still looks very good. I mean, this frosted glass back that originated on the 11 Pro is here to stay. I mean, that is going to be so persistent. It's going to be so beautiful for years and years to come. So probably one of the big things to keep in mind as well. Now, on top of that, lightning ports at the bottom. Like I said, the MagSafe capability, which is cool if you use it, but they both have IP certification. They both have things going for them in that standpoint. But I would say on the outside, definitely the iPhone 13 Pro is the better winner here as well. Now, the other weird thing that's kind of cool between both is that, the iPhone 14 has some cool features. It has the emergency SOS satellite mode, which is really cool. There are some newer camera features that are supported on this device, but it's weird because Apple could have brought some of those features, not the SOS satellite mode, but they could have brought over some of the camera features to the 13 Pro. So it's another example of them doing things where they didn't really have to. Like, they could have just supported it, to be honest. But this is also kind of bringing me to the software longevity aspect. Another weird thing they did this year was pretty much give this same phone the chipset of the iPhone 13 Pro. So even though this is the iPhone 14, it has the same exact chipset as the iPhone 13 Pro. Now, why is that important? Well, for one, I don't know how long this phone is going to last. I don't know if it's going to last as long as the iPhone 13 Pro, or if it's going to last as long as the iPhone 14 Pro, or if all the 14 Pro, 14, and 13 Pro are going to last the same amount of time. So it kind of confuses things even more. We already kind of had a weird history of these type of devices, but I guess we're going to see what happens in the future. If anything, we're still so far away from both these phones being unsupported that it really doesn't matter at like a complete high level, but it is one of those things you should probably keep in mind at the back of your head. So that kind of covers it up there. Let's go and do a speed comparison between both these devices. Like I mentioned, the iPhone 13 Pro has that Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it with 6 gigabytes of RAM. The iPhone 14 has that Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it as well with 4 gigabytes of RAM. So let's go see which one's the faster one between both. Okay, there we go. 13 Pro is on the left, iPhone 14 is on the right, and all the apps are clear on the background. So let's get into their app stores. 3, 2, 1. Now I'm hoping there's no pop-ups, which there's been tons of. So you can see there were no pop-ups here, which is really good to see. Scrolling through, I mean, honestly, I can't really tell the ProMotion display too much, but the 60 Hz on the iPhone 14 is still actually pretty good. Now scrolling back up, I want to go and click on one of these random panels up here. So let's click this one. Pretty much the same type of experience as well. So there's not really that much of a speed difference there. Hopping out of this one, let's go and get into their cameras. 3, 2, 1. Now, like I mentioned, you are getting a little bit of a better camera setup on the iPhone 14 here and there, but also the 13 Pro is better too. It's kind of flip-flopping. Let's go ahead and take a regular photo. Let's go and take a regular photo, 3, 2, 1. So we can see we do not have the night mode that was triggered on this device, which is weird. So this one was triggered, at least it looked like it. Hopping out of this one, we have some of these third-party applications we can go and get into. So let's do Netflix, 3, 2, 1. And about the same thing, not really that big of a difference there. Let's do Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. And I mean, from what I can see, it looks like the iPhone 13 Pro was a little bit faster here. It's very weird because typically the newer iPhones do tend to be faster, typically because they are just brand new. They don't have anything pre-installed within them. So that was actually kind of weird. I don't know what was going on there. Let's go and hop out of this one. Let's go and get into Snake First Blocks, 3, 2, 1. Okay, the iPhone 13 Pro looked to be a little bit faster there, but they were still very, very close. Let's try the Mail application, 3, 2, 1. Okay, about the same thing. Let's go and try iMovie, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Now this one we just have opened up for the first time on this device, so I can understand why it would have probably given us a different type of panel. We can try Garageband, 3, 2, 1. Now I've used Garageband on here before, but they both kind of open up at the same time. We just had two different panels, so we'll kind of give that one, kind of a little bit of an edge. Now that kind of covers up most of the applications I had that were similar between both. I will definitely tell you, in my experience, I'm pretty sure there's not going to be that big of a difference from like app opening maybe a month from now after we're using this phone for quite a bit of time. But I think after a certain period of time, we'll probably realize that bigger games like, Genshin Impact and those types of games are probably going to work a little bit better on phones like the 13 Pro with more RAM than something like the 14, especially considering these things are just so similar in the speed department. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there. Now, in terms of the camera setup, I'll definitely tell you again, the iPhone 13 Pro is quite a large winner here. I mean, you're getting that wide, ultra-wide, and telephoto lens on the 13 Pro. With the iPhone 14, you're getting a wide and ultra-wide lens. Now, on the 13 Pro, I've used this camera quite a bit for the past been using this camera for the last year, and it's been a solid lens. I think it's been a very good camera for the most part. I have not had any complaints about this besides cinematic mode. I feel like cinematic mode needed to be improved quite a bit. This was like the blockbuster feature of the 13 Pro, and it really wasn't that great. I was getting lots of issues. It wasn't working well with the subjects around devices. Like if I was recording like an iPhone, it was blurring out things, and it really shouldn't have, in my opinion. It was a very easy way to go ahead and use it, and unfortunately it didn't. But luckily for me, that was the only issue. Every single other thing on my iPhone 13 Pro was a beautiful experience, and I love this phone because of it. So if you're wanting a solid camera, the iPhone 13 Pro is still a very good camera for sure. With the 14, it's more or less the same. I mean, you're missing a telephoto lens, but you're also gaining some cool features. So you're getting you're getting improvements to cinematic mode with the ability of doing 4K. I think you have to have I think you have to have the pros to do it. But you have this new action mode, which is cool. So you can click up here and it's like a stabilization mode, which is awesome. But like I said, with the iPhone 13 Pros, they could have easily supported it as well. So I don't know why they didn't bring it on those devices, but what are you going to do? You can't really do anything about it. Now, I will say with this type of camera, still very good. There's not too much to complain about. But if I had to choose one, it'd probably be the 13 Pro. And that's kind of how I'd sum up this whole entire video. I think the iPhone 13 Pro is a better phone here, pretty much every single area. I can't really think of a specific scenario where the iPhone 14 is the winner. The 13 Pro pretty much beats it in every single area. Battery life I feel like would be better here. I feel like performance might be better. I feel like the cameras are better. I feel like the display, build quality, everything is better on this phone. The only thing the iPhone 14 maybe has going for it is the emergency SOS satellite mode and crash detection, probably those two things, maybe the new action mode. Other than that, I think this is still a good phone, but I just think I would rather buy a used iPhone 13 Pro in the used market for less money than something like the iPhone 14. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. Let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.